a very good afternoon to all News9 viewers. I'm Neha Bhan. Let's take a look at some of the top national and international stories of this hour. We begin with what's been happening on the Israel war front. Now, the war between Israel and Hamas has entered the 43rd day. There is no end to the fighting. Various diplomatic quarters have been pushing for humanitarian ceasefire, but the death toll and bombardment across the besieged Gaza Strip continues. Let's take a look at the top developments from the war front right on your screen. At least 12,000 Palestinians, including 5,000 children, have been killed in Israeli strikes on Gaza. This is according to the Gaza Ministry. Over 5,000 children have been killed in Gaza. As per the Gaza Health Ministry, 1.5 million Palestinians have been displaced inside Gaza. A first consignment of fuel has entered Gaza after Israel bowed to US pressure for limited deliveries to allow wastewater treatment and the resumption of communications after a 2-day blackout. There, the IDF has said Israeli troops will advance to anywhere Hamas exists, including the southern part of the Gaza Strip. Gaza's main telecommunications has confirmed partial restoration of services. Meanwhile, Israeli attack in Khan Yunis has killed 26 people. That's what the reports are stating.
The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being.
Now, in what can be touted as a fresh indication by the Israeli side that it plans to attack Hamas in South Gaza, Israel issued a warning to Gazans in the southern city of Khan Yunis to move out of the line of fire and closer to humanitarian aid. Mark Regev, an aide to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has told MSNBC, and I quote, "We're asking people to relocate. I know it is not easy for many of them, but we do not want to see civilians caught up in the crossfire." Now, this move could force hundreds of thousands of Gazans who fled south from the Israeli assault on the Gaza city to move again, along with residents of Khan Yunis, a city of more than 4 lakh, worsening a dire humanitarian crisis. Israel had launched its operation in search of the hostages as much as in pursuit of the Hamas terrorists. It's not clear whether the hostages have been moved to South Gaza now that the operation in the north is near complete. Israel has issued warning to Gazans to flee to the south. Let's now take you through the map of the Gaza Strip. Now that the Gazans in the southern city of Khan Yunis have been asked to move out of the line of fire, people who had taken shelter in the north, about more than 1.77 lakh people in the Rafah crossing and 2.90 lakh people in the Khan Yunis, face the fears of displacement. The question is, where do they go? To the north, where heavy bombardment and shelling is underway, houses have been destroyed or remain in the south despite warnings. Do remember that these are pre-conflict numbers. Exact and up-to-date numbers are hard to come by. There are probably many more people in the Khan Yunis now, and those people who are barely getting by now have to find some other place to go. Meanwhile, Israel is not being very specific about where these people should go. They are saying that the whole of Gaza can become part of their combat operation. As such, the Israeli attempt to empty out Khan Yunis has only fueled concerns that the IDF plans to push out all Gazans from the strip, likely in the direction of the Rafah crossing and the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt. Right on your screens, Israel expands war to South Gaza. Israel is planning to attack Hamas in South Gaza. In fact, Israeli authorities have also issued warning to Gazans in Khan Yunis, asking them to move out. The IDF has asked them to, in fact, This move could force hundreds of thousands of Gazans to move again. Over 1.77 lakh people in Rafah, while over 2.90 lakh people in Khan Yunis. No word yet on the hostages taken by the Hamas. The IDF has asked people to move west in order to escape fighting. Now, Israel Defense Forces spokesperson Daniel Hagari stated that the country's troops will advance to anywhere Hamas exists, including the southern part of the Gaza Strip, as we just mentioned. Now, Hagari's statement comes amid growing concerns about Israeli plans to expand military operations in parts of the south, where people have sought refuge from fighting. Israel has asked civilians to flee the southern city and move into smaller safe zone in the coastal town of Mawasi. Take a listen.
אנחנו נחושים להמשיך ולהתקדם. הדבר הזה יקרה בכל מקום שבו נמצא חמאס, והוא נמצא גם בדרום הרצועה. הוא יקרה בזמן, במקום ובתנאים שהכי טובים לצה"ל. אנחנו ממשיכים להעמיק את הפעילות המבצעית בבית החולים שיפה, לאתר תשתיות תת-קרקע, איתרנו היום עוד תשתיות תת-קרקע, ולאסוף כל פיסת מידע על החטופות והחטופים.
Now, there also have been massive protests that have been happening in various parts of the country ever since the Hamas-Israel war. The Israel-Hamas war broke out in the latest. Protesters gathered at the Ann Arbor in Michigan in the United States to protest against the war going on in Gaza. Protesters could be seen waving flag and raising pro-Palestinian slogans inside the university building. They could be heard chanting slogans like "The people united will never be defeated."
We charge you with genocide. Oh no, you can't hide. Oh no, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. We charge you with genocide.
Yeah, no. I know.
Police vehicles were also at the spot to keep a check on the protesters and ensure that no untoward incident takes place. The United States has seen a wave of protests in several cities in support of the Palestinians ever since the war started. That's not it. The United States has also witnessed several pro-Israel protest marches as well. Not only the United States, a group of activists also took to the streets in South Korea's capital, Seoul, calling for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. The activists put on display about 2,000 pair of shoes on the streets of downtown Seoul, symbolizing the Palestinian victims killed in the ongoing war. Take a look.
헌화를 하는 동안 우리 함께 계신 분들께서는 잠시 모든 희생자들을 생각하며 묵념하도록 하겠습니다.
이스라엘은 즉각 주전에 응하라. 팔레스타인의 자유를.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Now, activists posted signs calling for a ceasefire in Gaza and could also be heard chanting slogans like "Free Palestinians."
네, 이것으로 이스라엘의 점령을 중단하라!
Now, the Israeli army released footage of what it said are shoulder-fired missiles, mortar shells and weapons located inside a kindergarten in Gaza. According to the caption provided by the army in its telegram post, its troop located dozens of mortar shells that were hidden by Hamas in a kindergarten in the northern Gaza Strip. Earlier this week, at Gaza's biggest hospital, Al-Shifa, Israel claimed its forces had found in 2 days of searching a vehicle with a large number of weapons and an underground structure it called a Hamas tunnel shaft.
מצבור של פצצות מהשב"כ בתוך גן הילדים. הנה, יש לנו פה גן ילדים. כמה יש להם? 16 זה הקלה.
In the Al-Shifa hospital complex, IDF troops discovered a hidden booby-trapped vehicle with a bunch of weapons inside, such as AK-47s, RPGs, sniper rifles, grenades, and other explosives. Take a look.
Okay, we are here in the city of Gaza, in the heart of the city of Gaza, in Shifa Hospital, and this is what Hamas is trying to hide from you. We found a vehicle filled with ammunition, RPGs, AK-47s. We see handcuffs, knives, preparation for taking hostages from Israel on the attack of October 7th. As you can see, they were very well prepared, and where they're hiding all of this equipment is in a hospital, a place that's supposed to be for humanitarian aid. They have all this evil hidden here. As we can see, we are in the heart of the hospital, and this is where they choose to hide everything because they know the IDF won't attack, the Air Force won't attack here, so they use the hospital as human shields.
Now, the Israeli Defense Forces claim that they found a number of Hamas terrorist infrastructures within the premises of the Al-Shifa hospital. Let us take a look. The Hamas link to Al-Shifa. Now, the IDF claims that, in fact, Hamas has an underground complex near reception area. The IDF says Hamas has a command and control center in OPD building. IDF also reports that Hamas has an underground complex in chest and dialysis department building. IDF further reports that Hamas has an underground complex in internal staff building. These are some of the claims made by the Israeli Defense Forces and to what they claim is the Hamas's link to Al-Shifa, the biggest hospital in northern Gaza. Now, trucks carrying fuel have entered Gaza after the Israeli administration agreed to allow 2 fuel trucks a day into Gaza amid the heavy fighting. An official belonging to the Israeli administration said that the move was intended to enable the minimal maintenance necessary for water, sewer and sanitary systems. Take a look.
Israel has agreed to allow daily fuel deliveries through its blockade of Gaza for humanitarian purposes after a request from its chief ally, Washington. That's according to officials in both governments who spoke to Reuters anonymously. Separately, the Israeli Defense Ministry announced Friday that there would be no limits on aid shipments from the United Nations, a possible signal that Israel is bowing to some international pressure over the conditions in the war for civilians. These were Palestinians trying to get food in Khan Yunis, near the border with Egypt, where foreign aid is supposed to transit through. The United Nations warns that starvation has become a, quote, immediate possibility, and that it had to suspend aid shipments for at least 2 days due to lack of fuel. This woman is saying, what's happened to us? There's no water, no electricity. We're sleeping on the floor and our children are suffering. Trash and raw sewage are everywhere. The Israeli officials said the fuel deliveries would be mostly to meet the needs of United Nations aid workers, but that minimal supplies would go to sewage and sanitary systems. The American official said some fuel would also go to powering cell phone networks that have been forced to run on generators.
The United Nations is looking for ways to evacuate Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza, but options are limited by security and logistical constraints. The WHO observed that there were still about 600 patients, including 27 in critical condition, at the Shifa hospital, which Israeli forces entered this week following a day-long siege. Take a look.
So we are looking at options for medical evacuation, but there are a lot of security concerns. There are a lot of logistics constraints. Our options are rather limited, but we hope to have some better news in the next 24 hours. Firstly, you need to secure security guarantees and safe passage for any convoy. Negotiations with the Israeli Defense Forces are being managed through the UN offices. Then we have to prioritize the patients who would be moved first. So we'd be looking at the most critically ill, and again, those neonates. So we're going to be working with the doctors and nurses in the hospital to do that prioritization and come up with a list and make sure that they have companions, that parents travel with the neonates. But that's been a difficult exercise because our communications with the hospital is cut off most of the time. The third issue, of course, is just the lack of fuel. And so the Palestinian Red Crescent Society says right now, of the 25 ambulances they haven't had sufficient fuel to move north.
Palestinian medics say they are increasingly afraid for the lives of hundreds of patients and medical staff at Gaza's biggest hospital, cut off from all links to the outside world for more than a day after Israeli forces entered.
Video shot earlier this week is the last the world has seen of some of the medical staff caring for hundreds of patients still trapped inside Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital. Reuters journalists have been unable to reach anyone there for more than 24 hours. They were effectively cut off from the outside world as of Wednesday, after Israeli forces moved inside the facility.
This is the bag that we found.
Israel's military later released this video of rifles and flak jackets it said its soldiers found there. But it has so far produced no evidence of the vast Hamas headquarters that both it and Washington said was operating beneath Gaza's biggest hospital. The White House stood by its intelligence assessment about Al-Shifa on Thursday.
Grab and go.
Meanwhile, global alarm among humanitarian groups is growing. Al-Shifa is also hosting thousands of people displaced by weeks of Israeli airstrikes and artillery bombardments. The World Health Organization said it was trying to arrange a medical evacuation of about 600 patients inside Al-Shifa, including 27 in critical condition and 36 newborn babies removed from incubators for want of power, because Israel has cut off fuel supplies.
The humanitarian and health situation in Gaza really is catastrophic.
Regional Emergencies Director Rick Brennan said there were many challenges, including negotiating safety guarantees with Israel's military and a lack of the fuel needed for ambulances just to bring out patients.
But there are a lot of security concerns. There are a lot of logistics constraints. Our options are rather limited, but we hope to have some better news in the next 24 hours.
Israeli forces have effectively shut down all hospitals in the northern part of the enclave and ordered the area's evacuation. Human Rights Watch warned hospitals have special protections under international humanitarian law. Israel has now dropped leaflets in the southern part of the Gaza Strip, ordering civilians to leave 4 towns on the edge of Khan Yunis. Atya Abu Jabal was among tens of thousands of displaced people in the area, now wondering where they're supposed to go next. Other residents said the area came under heavy bombardment overnight.
The October 7 attack on southern Israel by Hamas left the whole world in shock with the sheer brutality and horrific nature of the incident. Jamal Waraki, an Arab Muslim volunteer paramedic, was one of the first to arrive at Kibbutz Be'eri in southern Israel after the Hamas attack. Closer to 2 months, he is still shaken to recall the brutality of what he witnessed.
Jamal Waraki, an Arab Muslim volunteer paramedic, was one of the first to arrive at Kibbutz Be'eri in southern Israel after the Hamas attack on October 7. He witnessed the killing of civilians in the kibbutz, which bore the brunt of the slaughter. Over a month later, he's still shaken to recall the brutality of what he saw.
That has nothing to do with Islam. Our religion, as a proud Arabic Muslim Israeli guy, I'm saying that has nothing to do with our religion.
Israeli officials say at least 1,300 people were killed, mostly civilians. The surviving residents were evacuated, and Israel launched a retaliatory bombardment and ground offensive against Hamas in Gaza that has killed more than 11,500 people.
When we first got into the kibbutz, the first one was Be'eri. I never thought that it could be a real thing. I thought in a while I thought that I'm dreaming, or I'm being in a kind of a film zone or such a thing. So I saw everything destroyed, a lot of houses burned, people who were slaughtered and killed in their houses, and afterwards the house will be lit on fire. When you see such a thing, you just think about you just start imagining what happens in there. How did they react? Who got killed first, the kids or the parents?
Waraki says Hamas did not spare Muslim in the attack. He recalls tending to 2 Arab women in hijab and 3 Arab bus drivers from East Jerusalem, all shot by the assailants. Reuters couldn't verify his account.
That means that they're not doing this for the country or for religions, they're just doing this for the hatred.
Waraki is still hopeful that Jews, Arabs, Christians and Muslims can learn to live together in Israel. There is no other way ahead, he says.
Of course, we need to live to each other. It's not a question, it's a need to. I think Israel learned today how to die together. Now it's time to learn how to live together. That's what I believe. Listen, Jews, Arabs, Christians, Muslims, we are all the same. Israel is a big whole body, and every one of us is one part of this body. If one of these parts is missing, the body won't be doing his job as it's supposed to. So I think that we have to take care of this, and we have to stop hatreds and start living together.
Switching our focus to other stories now, Sam Altman is out as the CEO of OpenAI. He and OpenAI's widely popular bot, ChatGPT, have become some of the most recognizable symbols of the generative AI craze over the past year. Now, the company says the board lost confidence in Altman's ability to lead. It found he was, quote, not consistently candid in his communications, unquote, and says that hindered its work. Take a look.
I now am wrapping up the trip feeling quite optimistic.
Sam Altman is out as the CEO of OpenAI. He and OpenAI's wildly popular bot, ChatGPT, have become some of the most recognizable symbols of the generative AI craze over the past year. The company says the board lost confidence in Altman's ability to lead. It found he was, quote, not consistently candid in his communications, and says that hindered its work. The abrupt shuffle sent shockwaves across the tech industry and came as a surprise for many employees. ChatGPT came out last November. Backed by billions of dollars from Microsoft, it quickly became one of the world's fastest-growing applications. It can spit out human-like content by training on heaps of data. The company says OpenAI's chief technology officer, Mira Murati, will serve as interim boss while it searches for a permanent CEO. On social media, Altman said he loved his time at OpenAI and hoped it was transformative for the world.
Meanwhile, the sacking of CEO Sam Altman seems to be having a wider fallout as 3 senior researchers at OpenAI resigned on Friday. The 3 researchers are Jacob Pachoki, the company's director of the researcher, head of a team evaluating potential risks from AI, and a researcher at the company for the past 7 years. The resignation from the 3 top researchers is the 4th overall resignation after the firing of CEO Sam Altman. President Greg Brockman was the first one to hand out his resignation. The departures are a sign of immense disappointment among some employees after the Altman ouster and underscore long simmering divisions at the ChatGPT creator about AI, artificial intelligence safety practices. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed his concern over the misuse of artificial intelligence technology. Prime Minister Modi flagged the misuse of the artificial intelligence for creating deepfakes and termed deepfakes as one of the biggest threats in the coming years. Prime Minister emphasized that deepfakes could be used to cause chaos in society, especially a multi-religious and multicultural society like India. He urged the media and the citizens to remain vigilant to the threats that deepfakes pose. Electronics and IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav has informed that government is planning to host a meeting with social media companies to discuss ways to counter the deepfake menace. Prime Minister Modi's statement comes just days after a deepfake of actress Rashmika Mandanna and Kajol went viral on social media and brought to the fore how deepfakes can be used to target celebrities and civilians alike. Listen in.
दो चीजें मुझे लगती हैं। एक, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस के कारण और उसमें भी डीप फेक के कारण जो एक नया संकट आ रहा है, भारत का बहुत बड़ा वर्ग ऐसा है कि उसके पास वेरिफिकेशन के लिए या ऑथेंटिफाई करने के लिए कोई उसके पास पैरेलल व्यवस्था नहीं है। और बाय एंड लार्ज आजादी की लड़ाई से लेकर के भारत में जिस भी चीजें से मीडिया शब्द जुड़ता है उसकी एक इज्जत है। जैसे कोई भी व्यक्ति हो गेरुए हुए कपड़े हैं तो हमारे यहां एक स्वाभाविक उसके विरासत में इज्जत मिल जाती है उसको, वैसा मीडिया को भी है, एक विरासत का लाभ उसको मिलता है। और उसके कारण डीप फेक हो तो भी वो भरोसा कर लेता है यार ऐसे थोड़ा आया होगा, कुछ तो होगा। और ये बहुत बड़े संकट की तरफ जाएगा समाज में, और शायद वो असंतोष की आग भी बहुत तेजी से फैला सकता है समाज जीवन की व्यवस्थाओं को। और ये बहुत मुश्किल काम होता है, बहुत मुश्किल काम होता है। मान लीजिए कहीं कोई एक गलत चीज ने कुछ नई समस्या पैदा कर दी, अगर सरकार को वहां पहुंचना है तो डिस्टेंस भी तो मैटर करता है। अब आपको तो डिस्टेंस समय मैटर ही नहीं करता है, तुरंत पहुंच जाता है। अगर लोगों को एजुकेट कर सकते हैं हम हमारे कार्यक्रमों के द्वारा कि आखिर है क्या, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस कैसे काम कर रहा है, डीप फेक क्या कर सकता है और कितना बड़ा संकट पैदा कर सकता है, और उसमें जो चाहे वो बना सकते हैं जी। मैंने अभी एक वीडियो देखा जिसमें मैं गरबे गा रहा हूं और मैं खुद भी देख रहा क्या बढ़िया बना है जबकि मैं स्कूल एज के बाद कभी मौका नहीं मिला मुझे। मैं स्कूल में बहुत अच्छा खेलता था, गरबे बहुत ही अच्छा खेलता था, लेकिन बाद में कभी मौका नहीं मिला। लेकिन अभी जैसे आज ही बनाया हुआ ऐसा वीडियो, ये आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस की ताकत है कि उसने बना के रख दिया है और चल रहा है, और जो मुझे प्यार करते हैं वो भी इसको फॉरवर्ड कर रहे हैं मैं औरों का उदाहरण देना नहीं चाहता हूं, इसलिए मैंने दिया नहीं, मैंने अपना ही दिया, लेकिन एक चिंता का विषय है जी।
The artificial intelligence revolution is here and is impacting all aspects of our lives. From Hollywood celebrities figuring out how to live with bots to a chat with virtual celebrities, our next report brings you the week's big stories from the artificial intelligence revolution.
From actors making peace with bots to why Google wants you to talk to a virtual version of Billie Eilish, this is Generation AI. The Hollywood actor strike came to an end, with AI among the last issues to be hammered out. Union chief negotiator Duncan Crabtree Ireland hailed the deal.
And for the first time consent, informed consent, and fair compensation guardrails will be in place around the use of artificial intelligence in our industry.
Among other measures, studios will now have to get an actor's consent before using their image to create a digital replica. NVIDIA has upgraded its flagship AI chip. It's called the H200 and will roll out next year to customers, including Amazon. NVIDIA already dominates the market for AI chips, and its new model will allow services such as ChatGPT to spit out answers even faster. Reuters sources say Google is in talks to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in character AI. The fast-growing chatbot startup allows people to talk with virtual versions of anime characters and celebrities like Billie Eilish. Most of its traffic is coming from users between the ages of 18 and 24, according to data from SimilarWeb. Facebook parent Meta says advertisers will soon have to disclose when AI has been used to alter or create messages related to politics. They'll have to say if the ads portray real people as doing or saying something they didn't. The new rules kick in next year. And ChatGPT creator OpenAI says it wants to work with other organizations to produce datasets to train AI models. It's looking for deals to access material that expresses human intentions in any language. The aim is to produce more nuanced training data that's more conversational in style.
War-torn Ukraine has started building underground schools in the Kharkiv region, which will allow children to return to in-person learning. This while the region faces the constant threat of Russian airstrikes.
Ukraine's Kharkiv region has started building underground schools. The heavily fortified structures will allow children to return to in-person learning, while the region faces the constant threat of Russian airstrikes. Schools in the eastern region, which borders Russia, had to resort to online learning after the February 2022 invasion. Kharkiv is frequently targeted by Russian missiles, drones and artillery. The governor reported on Thursday that in 24 hours, 3 different districts had been struck. The chief district architect Anton Korotovsky said 2 schools are currently under construction.
Вони можуть витримувати пряме влучання ракет С-300. Також розраховані десь на 500 чоловік кожна. Також вони будуть обладнані.
The structures could withstand direct hits from S-300 missiles. They are designed to accommodate up to 500 people each. They will also be adapted to be accessible for people with physical disabilities. There will be restrooms, independent power sources, diesel generators, water supply, sewage, and everything required for the education process.
He added that more of these schools, which act as bomb shelters, will be planned by the end of the year. The buildings will be equipped with necessities like ventilation, water and beds so people can stay there for more than one day. Ukrainians are now bracing for another winter of possible Russian airstrikes targeting critical infrastructure. Last year, this caused widespread blackouts across the country.
Millions of Russian families are having to cut back due to the significant changes forced on Russia's economy by the war in Ukraine and the myriad sanctions imposed by the West.
In grocery stores across Russia, prices have been soaring. Families are having to cut back as they grapple with high inflation caused by the war in Ukraine and a myriad of sanctions imposed by the West. Mother of 2, Daria Stepanova, is among them.
One of my kids is 5. Another one is a newborn. And I can see how much everything has become more expensive in the course of these 5 years. Pampers are 2 to 3 times more expensive now. Baby food is now 4 times more expensive.
She's trying to make ends meet on the 50,000 rubles, about $550 a month, that her husband earns. The ruble has fallen against the US dollar since the war began in February 2022, making the price of imported goods climb. And all this comes ahead of the 2024 election, where Vladimir Putin is expected to run again, in a move that would keep him in power until at least 2030. Official statistics show that over 15 million Russians are living below the poverty line. Russian economist Igor Lipitz says the situation is even worse than what the Kremlin reports. He estimates about 20 million people could be in or on the verge of poverty.
The indirect indicator of the situation with the income is the level of high debt ratio that is always discussed again if you take statistics of the Bank of Russia. It's all seen there, how many Russians have 2 or 3 loans, how many families spend not only 50% but around 80% of their monthly income. There are Russian regions where people have to give away 105% of their monthly income. 105. This is what real people's incomes are and how deep in poverty the Russian population lives. Russians are in deep trouble.
Some economists think the ruble could fall even further after the election.
Finland has started erecting barriers at 4 of the 9 border crossings with Russia in a bid to stop the inflow of illegal immigrants. Finland administration says rising flow of migrants has been orchestrated by Moscow in revenge for Finland's defense cooperation with the United States. Take a look.
Finland will erect barriers at 4 of its 9 border crossings with Russia from midnight on Friday. It wants to stem an increase in migrants that Helsinki says have been orchestrated by Moscow in revenge for Finland's defense cooperation with the United States. Here's Finland's Interior Minister, Mari Rantanen, speaking on Thursday.
It's clear that Russian authorities have facilitated people in crossing the border from Russia to Finland. It's possible that this form of illegal entry that we are now experiencing could grow and intensify quickly and significantly. It's already putting a strain on Finnish authorities.
Helsinki angered Moscow when it joined the NATO military alliance in April, after decades of non-alignment following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Kremlin denies Finland's accusations, with the TASS news agency reporting spokesman Dmitry Peskov had said the country was making a big mistake by choosing a path of confrontation. Also speaking on Thursday, Finnish Foreign Minister Elina Valtonen.
Finland's eastern border is also the external border of the Schengen area, the European Union, and of NATO. Finland is well prepared to counter any type of hybrid operations together with our partners and allies. We hope the pressure will ease soon, and we can reopen the border crossings, which are essential for many families, diplomats, and the transfer of necessary goods. Thank you.
According to the border guard, some 300 asylum seekers, mostly from Iraq, Yemen, Somalia and Syria, arrived in Finland this week. According to officials, nearly 100 had entered the country from Russia by midday on Friday alone. But from Saturday, asylum seekers arriving via Russia will only be allowed to hand in their applications at 2 northern border crossings. Finland shares an 830-mile border with Russia that also serves as an EU external border.
Hundreds of workers at Starbucks are on a strike to demand an improvement in staffing and schedules at the workplace. They even walked off their jobs during a key promotional event to stress upon their demands. Take a look.
Workers at this New York Starbucks store and hundreds of other locations walked off their jobs during a key promotional event on Thursday. They demanded improved staffing and schedules, the Workers' United Union said on social media platform X. The walkout came on the coffee chain's Red Cup Day event, during which Starbucks hands out free red-colored reusable holiday-themed cups to customers on their coffee purchases. Edwin Palma Solis is a Starbucks barista trainer.
We want to make sure that we have a better pay, staffing, scheduling, and we have the right amount of hours to work because they've been improperly staffing us. And sometimes it just makes it harder for us to work. You know, sometimes we feel like we work for 2 people instead of 1, and we're just tired. We're just really tired of overworking ourselves.
Starbucks said on Thursday its stores in the United States were open, adding that a few dozen stores were on strike. Red Cup Day has typically been a major driver of store traffic, with data from analytics company Placer.ai showing that visits to U.S. Starbucks stores on the same day last year jumped 94% over the daily average for the full year. Workers United, which represents more than 9,000 Starbucks employees at about 360 U.S. stores, has said the event was one of the most infamously hard, understaffed days, as drink orders pile up and employees end up on the receiving end of abuse from frustrated customers over long wait times. Earlier this month, Starbucks said it would raise hourly pay for its U.S. retail workers by at least 3% starting in 2024, which employees criticize, calling it tone-deaf, given Starbucks' 11% increase in fourth quarter revenue and the recent wage hikes won by auto workers.
Taking a look at some of the climate change stories now. Kenya's landfills are seeing a rise in plastic waste, even as several countries are coming together to discuss a global treaty on plastic pollution. Locals in Kenya are also contributing in the fight against plastic pollution. This report tells you about how a local company is switching to eco-friendly packaging, highlighting the growing trend of producers taking responsibility for product disposal. Take a look.
This is Kenya's Dandora landfill, Nairobi's main dumping ground, and one of the largest landfills in the world. It's filled with single-use plastic, despite major steps taken in recent years by Kenya to reduce its environmental footprint. The country is urging for a strong, binding agreement on plastics, as international delegates gather there to discuss creating the first-ever treaty to contain plastic pollution. Locals say a shift in mindset is already happening. In 2017, Kenya imposed the world's toughest law against plastic bags. Kenyans producing, selling, or even using plastic bags risk imprisonment of up to 4 years or fines of $40,000. It recently expanded its waste management law, which now puts the responsibility on producers to properly dispose of their products instead of consumers. Kenyan dairy products firm Biofoods has embraced the new legislation. It's replaced its white PET polyethylene terephthalate milk bottles to clear ones. Rosalind Raru is head of sustainability at the company.
We've gotten very positive feedback from the recyclers because it's more recyclable than the previous white PET that we were using.
Dominic Kagwe's company is among those recyclers.
Clear PET is a better devil to live with because we can easily be able to fully recycle it and get it back, into the market, avoiding virgin products coming into the market.
According to the Environmental Investigation Agency, virgin plastics have reached unsustainable levels. It remains a significant environmental issue in Kenya. But Raru says the recent legislation is helping shift Kenyans' mindsets.
A couple of years ago, when we tried out this project, we didn't get as much positive feedback as we're getting from the consumers right now, which for us just proves that our customer base and the Kenyans in general have become more environment conscious.
Now, Iceland is preparing for a likely volcanic eruption amid growing underground lava flows and intensifying seismic activity. The country is on an alert after a number of earthquakes hit the island nation, leading to giant cracks ripping through the ground. Take a look.
Steam rising from giant cracks that have ripped through Grindavik, Iceland, could be seen from a Coast Guard helicopter on Friday. The country is preparing for what experts believe is a likely volcanic eruption on the Reykjanes Peninsula, amid growing underground lava flows and intensifying seismic activity.
From midnight to about 8 o'clock this morning, there were, I think, 600 new earthquakes. So the outlook is rather bleak, in my opinion.
Geophysicist Ari Trausti Gudmundsson says the probability of an eruption is high.
People now wait in anxiety what is going to happen to the town. If the eruption really occurs, it could spare the town to a large extent. It could also, the lava flow, simply bury the town. So we don't know really which scenario is the most likely one.
Aerial views of the nearby Blue Lagoon, one of Iceland's most famous tourist attractions, show the geothermal spa completely deserted. Authorities have evacuated nearly 4,000 people from the area and were preparing to construct a large dike designed to divert lava flows around a geothermal power plant that provides hot water to the entire peninsula.
Check the news. I've been expecting it to start.
Evacuees wanting to go back into town to pick up belongings on Thursday had to queue at a roadblock before they were either driven into Grindavik in emergency vehicles or accompanied by emergency personnel.
It's like sitting in a very boring movie, but you're stuck there. You can't get out of it. It's unreal. It's hard to digest.
Other residents also said the waiting for the eruption was the worst part.
My house is okay, but it's on the red area, so it has collapsed. The earth has collapsed about 1 meter or something. We don't know if we're gonna have a home or what, because if it doesn't erupt, we don't know anything.
The first part of the final season of the Netflix show, The Crown, has released. The last season will revolve around the tragic death of Princess Diana. Elizabeth Debicki, who is portraying the character of Princess Diana, sees the role as a serious endeavour and acknowledges the cultural impact the show has had. Take a look.
The physical reality of what it feels like to be in a car being pursued like that through the day and in the evening, the relentlessness of that, it was a profound sense of tragedy that lives in your body when you play that part of the story.
You're okay.
I'm okay.
It's just...
And then there's this very real sense of responsibility that is both external but also something I put on myself, a pressure I put on myself, to do the best possible job. And in this case, I guess that ends up equating to being as authentic as you can.
And then directly in front of you, please. Straight ahead, directly in front of you. And right down the center, guys, those smiles here. To the left or back.
Dashing around. Losing sight.
This is a cultural trauma that millions of people around the world experience and cried about and have done for 26 years, and so it has a certain sacredness, and so you have to treat it with that dignity and respect, and in order to honour it, and we went on that journey together, kind of catching it and finding it.
And that's all we have in this edition of the Bulletin. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great weekend. Thank you very much.
United States has always been seen as this world power, and they do not want this image to go away.
Any attack which is simultaneous on the Gaza Strip will create a public opinion against America.
So therefore they cannot